to It's Zoe or Read by Zoe, and today I'm going to do my July wrap-up. I read 9 books this past month, which is way more than I was expecting. I was expecting to read like 2 or 3 because I went to VidCon. I just got back a couple of days ago and it was honestly one of the best experiences. I met all of the booktubers, all the booktubers who went to VidCon, and they're all so nice. I made so many great friends and I just feel so much love for this booktube community. But anyway, I read 9 books, which was more than I was expecting, and I think I read almost all of the books that were on my TBR, which never happens. I usually make my TBR and then I read none of the books on my TBR. This was just a great month for reading, and let me get on with the wrap-up. The first 2 books that I read this month were the last 2 books in the Confessions of Georgia Nicholson series by Louise Redison, and they were Stop in the Name of Pants and Are These My Bazumas I See Before Me. I know, really weird titles, but they are the best books. I love them so much. They are such quick reads and so incredibly funny. So I gave Stop in the Name of Pants 4.5 or 4.75 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. And then I gave the last one, which was Are These My Bazumas I See Before Me, 5 out of 5 stars. It was such a great conclusion, and I love who Georgia ended up with. No spoilers, but I knew it was going to happen and I needed it to happen, and it happened, and I loved it. So many things happened and I actually cried. The third book that I read in July was Bloodlines by Rochelle Mead. This is the first book in the spin-off series of Vampire Academy, and it centers around Sydney. I posted an entire review video of this book on my channel, so I will link that down below and probably here on the screen somewhere. I will go way more in depth of my thoughts, and I will give you more of a summary of what this book is about. Anyway, I loved it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Definitely worth the read. The fourth book that I read in July was Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Riggs. This is another book like Bloodlines that has been on my shelf for forever, and I finally got around to reading it. It's about this boy named Jacob, and growing up his grandfather always told him some really weird and interesting stories about the orphanage in which he grew up, where everyone had superpowers and everyone was weird and time stopped. Jacob starts to think that all of these are lies and they're just stories that his grandfather made up, but then one day his grandfather dies. He was killed by this mysterious beast, and he starts to learn that all of the stories are actually real, and he goes to the orphanage and meets people and things happen. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed the book, but I did think that I was pretty slow in the middle when he was experiencing the same day over and over again. I really liked the pictures that are in here. If you don't know, there are actual legit old pictures in here that are corresponding with the story. He kind of fit the story to go along with the pictures. Sometimes I did feel like he made the story kind of awkward just to fit a picture in. I cannot wait to read the next book, which is Hallow City, because I hear it's even better than this first book. The next book I read was 20 Boy Summer by Sarah Auckler. This is a summery contemporary book, but it's definitely not as lighthearted as I was expecting. This focuses on a teenage girl named Anna who grew up next door to 2 siblings named Frankie and Matt, and she always had a crush on Matt until one day he shows feelings for her and they kiss and they're all together and in love and all of that. But then before they can tell anyone, he gets into a car crash and dies. Since they didn't tell anyone that they were together, she still feels like she can't, so she has to deal with her intense grief internally, and she's really struggling, but she has to be strong for her best friend Frankie, who was his sister. A year later, Anna goes with Frankie and her family to Zanzibar Bay, where Frankie's family always went every single summer, and this is the first year they're going without Matt. So they still have to deal with all of their grief, and Anna is trying to get over Matt, and it's just really intense, but I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It was kind of slow at the middle-ish end when I felt like they were kind of grieving a little bit too long, which I know is insensitive because everyone grieves at their own pace, but it was just getting to be a downer, and there were some friendship issues happening, but I really enjoyed it, and I recommend this book to anyone who's looking for a cry-worthy contemporary summery book. The next book I read was a reread, and it was Twilight by Stephenie Meyer. I listened to this on an audiobook when I was driving in the car to and from my college. It made me laugh, and I was not expecting that. I only have read this once, and that was back in 7th grade, so like 6 years ago. I know it's not the best written book, and it's really cheesy at times, but it's way more lighthearted than the movie. Everyone has a little bit more of a sense of humor, and I like Bella in this book. In the movie, she's kind of twitchy and awkward and weird. I give it 5 out of 5 stars. It has a very special place in my heart. The next book I read was The Heir by Kira Cass. This is the 4th book in the selection series, but it's kind of like the first book in a spin-off because it is about America and Maxon's daughter named Evelyn, and it's about 20 years after the one which is the 3rd book in the selection series. Evelyn is doing her own selection, so she's picking the future king of whatever country they live in. I forgot the name of the country. And it's interesting to see how instead of being from the outside like America was, being one of the selected, we are now seeing the person who selects the future king. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars though because I really don't like Evelyn. I know she gets better in this book, but at first she was such a brat and I hated her. I also felt like this was kind of an unnecessary book. I liked how the selection trilogy ended. It ended in a nice little bow, everything was wrapped up, and I just was very content in the way it ended. And then we got another book. Not sure if I'll continue on with her journey, but I did really enjoy the first 3 selection books. The 8th book that I read in July was Just One Day by Gail Forman. I loved this book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Definitely what I was looking for in a read at that particular time. I read this when I was traveling, and this book is all about traveling. This book is about a girl named Allison whose life has already been planned out for her by her mother. Her mother makes these weird schedules to make sure that she never has a free moment to spare, that she's always doing something, and she never really thinks about what she wants. At the beginning of this book, her and her best friend Melanie are in Europe exploring along with this teen tours group, which is supposed to be this educational teen adventure type thing. They go to a bunch of countries, but they never really experience it. They just stop in, look at some sights, and then get out of the country, go on to the next one. At the end of this tour, her and Melanie have a couple of days to spare before they go back to America, and Allison meets this Dutch boy named Willem, who convinces her to go to Paris for just one day. And so they go, her and Willem, not Melanie. Melanie's just who knows where. She has to go back to America, and she starts to change and figure out what she wants to do, and it's so good. Allison has this crazy character development. She turns into this fierce, independent woman who becomes her own person, and I love it. And the last book that I read in July was Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban by J.K. Rowling, the 3rd book in the Harry Potter series. I have slowly been trying to reread the series. I read the first 2 books a couple of months ago, I think, and now I am finished with the 3rd and am on to the 4th. This used to be my least favorite book in the series, which I don't really know why. I read it in like elementary school, so who knows what I was thinking. But it might have been because Voldemort's not actually in this book, so I was like, this is a waste of a book, where's Voldemort? But now rereading it, I loved it. There's time travel, which is awesome, and there's a lot of world building, and Harry's getting a little bit sassier, and Hermione's in this more, not like the 2nd book where she's gone like all of the book. Obviously 5 out of 5 stars, but this has also started my Harry Potter obsession again, which I thought was gone, but it's back. So those are all of the books that I read in July. I hope you all enjoyed. Please leave below what you read in July down below, and I'll talk to you all later. Bye!